we have about 5, maybe 10 minutes if we at most for some questions and comment from all of you. I'm sure you will have something to say in a Jewish audience. Anybody?
I just have to say that you touched on your shoulder. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did.
And this is special praise coming from the woman who taught my son when he was a 3-year-old. This is coming around. You gave to him, he gave to me, and I'm just giving a little bit back to you.
You have.
Oh, the mic.
Louder.
Hello, she'll use the mic. Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments?
Why do you think so many Jews are reaching out to Buddhism?
Oh.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'll repeat the question. Why do I think so many Jews are reaching out to Buddhism? That's a whole lecture right there. I think we've lost something in our practice of Judaism that Buddhism offers. And so a lot of Jews are very spiritually yearning for powerful spiritual experiences, either in meditation or in chanting. So I think that's part of it, that we do have a spiritual tradition and a meditative tradition, but we're not good. And I said, just personally, I'm not that good at helping Jews connect with that tradition. And I'll just say something else that I think comes into it as well. As far as I know, Buddhists don't have a Holocaust hanging over their heads. I don't know that there's the same degree of existential crisis. I don't know if Buddhists think about, will there be Buddhists in 100 years? Tibetan Buddhism, yes, worries about their own personal trip, but I think we have, as to use a good Yiddish word, pekelach. We have pekels. We have packages that we carry. We have some burdens that we carry, and it's. I think that those packages make it hard for us to connect to the more spiritual side of Judaism. Again, I was just tremendously lucky that my teachers, Shlomo, Zalman, and Gloria, have helped nurture my part of the heart. I think Jewish education, this is sort of a longer talk, but Jewish education is very good at teaching the head. I don't think we're that good in Jewish education of nurturing the heart. That's what I can do in short notice. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
Can you enlighten us a bit on what the differences are between, traditional Judaism and the Reform movement?
Okay. First of all, no one's going to call Rabbi Bergman after this, right? He's a good friend. We were just on a panel there the last 2 days. Well, what the Orthodox say is that we have the continuing tradition from Mount Sinai. There's a direct line from God to Moses to Mount Sinai to us here today. And we must do everything that our ancestors have done along the way. And we can't really change very much. We have to really honor the tradition. That's the first question we ask. And my understanding, and I'm neither Orthodox nor a Reformed Jew, but my understanding is that Reformed Judaism says, we have to change. We have to adapt. There are realities, there are challenges to our Judaism today that weren't there before. And so we have to, for example, in terms of gender equality, treat women the same as men. Whereas Orthodoxy will say, well, there are reasons that men and women are treated separately, and that's why we have to do that. So I think it's the way in which one group holds on to tradition, and the other group says, tradition is a little bit malleable that we can work with.
Could you say a little bit more about where that tradition stems from, that men are more important than women?
I think most of certainly Western society has privileged men and oppressed women, not just in the Jewish world, but ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, ancient Egyptians, and it's starting, I think, still very slowly to unravel that and put aside some of that oppressive behavior, oppressive mind talk. And I think it's very important that Judaism do that as a religion. That there's this notion that we didn't want to hear Kol Isha, we didn't want to hear the voice of women because it was thought that men would immediately think of things they shouldn't think about when they hear a woman's voice.
Are they so weak?
Because, which says more about men's sexuality than women's sexuality. And I think there's a growing realization that we have to hear women's voice. And then in just a few moments we'll hear Myrna's women's voice, and there's so many outstanding women artists, cantors, people who are really reclaiming that tradition. It's a great question, Golly. I'm not doing it justice in the short time I have, but it's there's just some very deep misogyny in our world, and it's been there for a long time. So it's going to take time to get out of it.
Please phone me when you find out things are
Oh. You phone me when you find it out. Sorry about that. Yes.
Irene first, and then Jean.
Okay, sorry.
No, I
Thank you.
agree with what you're saying, except that then I look at today in the paper, and it says 5 women were just arrested at the Wailing Wall for wearing prayer shawls. And my son lives right on the edge of the Satmar community in Williamsburg. I mean, I don't even know where those people, I don't even want to, I'm so prejudiced against what I see going on there. It makes me sick, I just read Deborah Feldman's book.
Yeah.
That's the question.
So I agree with you, but then these people that are fighting so hard to go back in time that seem to be even to the right of anything anyone's ever talked about in Judaism, to me anyway.
Well, first of all, the article I read in the Globe Mail this morning was that the court actually affirmed the women's right to daven at the Kotel.
Yeah.
Yes.
So slowly changes are coming even to that community.
And the Satmars?
Yeah, I mean, I heard an interesting statistic from an Israeli social scientist who was saying, they were studying just matzah sales, right? So the organization of matzah makers were noticing that the percentage of people buying manischewitz or commercial matzahs was going down, down, down. And what their survey showed them was that people like your son, people going into the ultra-Orthodox world, are not buying the commercial matzahs. They'll only buy matzah shmura. They'll only buy handmade matzahs from someone they know. And the other extreme was people who are not buying matzahs at all. And so our people are really getting fragmented in all kinds of different directions. And I think Jewish fragmentation is a major problem the Jewish world has today.
Or a major blessing. I never know.
Yes, it's probably also an opportunity for us to
Right.
pull it together.
Thank you. Thank you. Jean.
Well, yeah, thinking about what you were saying on Jewish spirituality, particularly the centrality of God in knowing, determining, guiding the fate of individuals in your account of Jewish spiritualism. To what extent is there room for, in your account, for a world in which God does not know, direct, guide, control the fate of individuals or of groups? Because from beginning to end of your account, God is the center of the hub, I guess, of the wheel. And is it possible to have a spiritualism where that is not true?
Thank you for your question, because I didn't mean to suggest that everything we do is predetermined by God, that we do have freedom of choice. And God lights the spark that gets us into this world, but that whether or not I give to charity, or how much I give to charity, or which charities, it's all my freedom. There's a great quote from Isaac Bashevis Singer when they asked him if he believed in determinism or free will. And he said, "Of course I believe in free will. What choice do I have?" And I think that's really the Jewish view, that, of course we believe in free will in a context of a universe that was created by God. And so I wouldn't want to be mistaken for people to think that I'm saying, everything we've done today, until today, we'll do tomorrow, is the hand of God operating. I think God has created a world of possibilities and impossibilities, and that's what we have to work with. I don't know if I'm directly answering your question, but I think
Well, can there be a Jewish spirituality
Absolutely.
where God does not exist in the mind of the Jew?
Sure. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think people can operate as a Jew without saying, I really don't believe in God. Because we still have the notion of community, we still have the notion of good deeds. And so I think that's really important. It was really meaningful to me, I should say, for coming to the Parents Center this morning, because my grandparents were secular Yiddishists. And and they expressed their Judaism not by going to synagogue, and not by talking about God, and not by doing breathing exercises, but by playing the mandolin and being in choirs and taking care of each other and having community seders. And that was a very rich, full, passionate Judaism. And for me, I benefit from that because I think I get that from my mother's side, that passion and that community focus. My father's side, we're all Lithuanian rabbis. So I got the head from my father's side and the heart from my mother's side. And I think my MRI would show that. You would see that the two strands are intertwined. But absolutely. There are so many varieties of Jewish expression and experience. So I really appreciate your question for giving me the opportunity to clarify that.
Can I just ask you a question
Sure.
myself? Just to sum up then, since we're all, I think just about all of us here, maybe actually all of us, are senior citizens here, what would you say to senior citizens? How can we best nurture our humanity?
Wow.
In a very short few words. Sum it all up.
This is where I usually get into baseball.
Go for it.
Hank Greenberg.
I invited Sandy Koufax to my bar mitzvah. To tell you.
Did he come?
He didn't, but he autographed the invitation and sent it back.
Oh.
So I made it clear to Cheryl and my kids that if the house ever burns down, first I'll get them out of the house, then I go back and I get the autograph. But no, it's a serious question. I think everything we've been talking about today, of seeing the significance of your lives, first of all. You know, that what I do in my life is important, whether it's breathing or giving charity or coming on Fridays to the parent school, that these are significant activities. And that some of the mechanics we looked at today, the breathing exercise was one, but also telling stories. I think that the generation of people who are, I wouldn't say aging, but my Rabbi teaches it as saging, who are becoming the elders of our community, have incredible stories to tell. And I think we have to find a way of capturing those stories and sharing them. And I know sometimes younger folks don't want to hear stories of the old days, but I guarantee you when those younger folks turn 40, they have young kids, they're looking for connections. So if you wanted to write those stories down and have a writing group where you say, okay, my grandkids can't hear this right now, but it's important that they know this. So if they knew about your parents and your growing up and what growing up Jewish meant to you, I think being able to share those stories is probably one of the most significant activities you can do.
I happen to agree with you.
Okay, so we're both right.
Okay, one more, last question from Goelman.
Hello, how do religious people explain the Holocaust?
I'm glad somebody's asking a really easy question. First of all, there are many different Orthodox responses to the Holocaust. There's not like one party line. That's first, so I can't tell you here's what they say about that.
What do you say?
I'm still wrestling with that. You know, we went to Poland and went to the camps. A few weeks ago I got a letter inviting me to come give some lectures. And I thought, oh, that's nice, I'd like to go there. And then I saw it was from the Free University of Berlin. And I thought, you gotta be kidding me, I'm not going to Berlin. So I'm still wrestling with my own relationship to the Holocaust and what it means and how to internalize it. One of the Orthodox responses is that, and this goes back to the other gentleman, Gene's point about how could God let the Holocaust happen? What was that about? So one Orthodox response is to say, it's not for us to question God. It was so beyond our experience, so beyond rational thought, so beyond emotional thought, so beyond anything the world has ever experienced. We just don't know. And we live in a world where we live with that uncertainty. And it's troubling, and it's devastating. And for those of us who've had family who never made it out of Europe, in the camps and the ghettos, it is devastating. So I think the most common response that I've heard is that we just don't know. There's some simplistic ones. The simplistic ones I think we would all agree don't make sense. It was a punishment to the Jewish people. Why? What did we do? What did we do? What did anybody do to deserve that? So that one I think we can just throw out the window, that we deserved it, we did something wrong. But I think for me the most honest response is to say, I don't know, but I'm going to wrestle with it. And every year when I light a yahrzeit candle for 3 of my cousins who are 11, 9, and 8 years old, whose names I got from a transport from the Bialystok ghetto to Auschwitz, I have to look at them. And the only response I had there is when I look at those names is the fact that my nephew named his twins after 2 of those children. So that for me personally, those children their names are living on, and that gives me strength, and that gives me some measure of comfort that, you know what, I'm still here. My great nieces are still here. And so the story of the Holocaust hasn't ended. We're still rewriting the end of it as we go forward.
Okay. That's it.
Best I can do.